Hi, welcome back everyone. And the next section of our guide to tactics and combinations for beginners is the idea of nets. And a net, if I just put a setup on quickly and clear the board, a net is a situation where a piece is utterly trapped, and then when you attack it, it can't escape. So here's a net. The black knight could only move to these 4 squares. Of course, the white bishop guards those 4 squares, and another white bishop comes along and attacks the knight. It's trapped. It can't escape. That's a net. Obviously, the most common form of a net is simply the checkmate net. There's an attack on the king. None of the squares are available to escape to because they're all attacked by white pieces. So it's a net. A particularly well-known kind of net, if I just empty the board, we're actually going to see in the game, in one of these games, but it's known as the Noah's Ark Trap. And it's this one here where you manage to catch an enemy bishop like this. So the pawns attack, they defend each other, and there's no escape square for the bishop. Another one that you can do with the bishops that a world champion once fell for. Funnily enough, although in his case it was more of a miscalculation, I think that he just miscounted that he could get his bishop out, is this one. In this situation, if you play bishop takes pawn, you actually get your bishop trapped. After the pawn moves forward, there's no way out for the bishop, unless you know, the other pieces, maybe you can go that way, but, you know, chances are that pawn will be defended by something. So nets, situations in which a piece is trapped with no means to escape. And we've got 9 games here. You know, they're all very, very quick. So I think I'm going to try to do them in one go. And if it feels like the video is just going on and on and on for too long, then maybe I'll stop at 5. But I think we can probably do them all in half an hour tops. So I will try. And the first game is a very, very well-known player who perhaps just didn't win anything like as much as he should. It's a guy called George Koltanovsky. Was an American player alive during the 1900s, and Koltanovsky was famous for being able to play blindfold chess games simultaneously. Now, if you look him up, you'll find his record is something like 40 simultaneous games of chess without seeing the board at the same time. So he's playing 40 opponents at once who have all got their boards in front of them and can see the pieces, and Koltanovsky is doing the whole lot in his head. An incredible memory. And in this game in 1960 in San Francisco, he's playing a guy called Nolan. Let's see what Koltanovsky does. So e4, e5, just turn the lines off, e5, knight f3, and a very odd move from this chap, Nolan. Queen to f6, the McConnell defense. It's not very good usually to bring your queen out early. It's just too susceptible to attacks. So knight c3, bishop to c5, bishop to c4, and this is already a big advantage to white, which makes me think this is probably from one of those simultaneous exhibitions, because I don't think another master player will bring the queen out early, but I could be wrong. D6 and d3, knight to e7. Okay, that cuts off the queen's escape that way, so that starts to look like a net might be building. h3 from Koltanovsky, knight g6. Now that appears to let the queen go again, but what it has also done is taken away another escape square this way. And you'll have seen the analysis bar, the eval bar is shot up. If you want to pause and see if you can work out white's next move, feel free. Otherwise, I'll carry on in 3, 2, and 1. And the right move is bishop to g5. So the first thing to say is that's attacking the queen. Clearly, the queen can't go to these 2 squares because the bishop still sees those squares. This square is no good because of the other bishop. This square is no good because of the pawn. This square no good because of the bishop. You could take the knight, but of course their knight is defended twice. And if you take the bishop itself, well, the knight's defending. So the black queen must be lost for a minor piece, a bishop or a knight. So that's losing 9 for 3, and that's no good, time to resign. And that's what we mean by a net. So the black queen well and truly netted. At least if the knight had stayed there, the game at that point actually has become quite level, no problem. But knight to g6, I suspect that Koltanovsky knew it was going to be a net and set the trap, but no escape for the queen. Ouch. Okay, let's see our second game. We've got Paris 1888, Fraser against Tauben House. I don't know either of these two, so let's see this 8-move game. E4, E5, knight to F3, knight to C6, D4, so Scotch game, ED4, knight D4, and Queen H4. This is quite a common, quite a tricky little line of the Scotch. Nothing wrong with this so far. Knight to C3, got to protect that pawn from the queen. Knight to F6, black attacks it again. And knight to F5 from white, attacking the queen. Interesting idea. Queen's got to move. There's no time now. The point about this is that although there's two pieces attacking this pawn, because the queen's attacked, you've got to save the queen first. So black moves the queen to H5, offering a queen trade. Queen takes queen, knight takes queen. But you may have seen the analysis bar just shoot up to 5.5 there. Why is that? Well, if you want to see if you can work out white's correct next move, feel free to press pause. Otherwise, I will carry on in 3, 2, and 1. And the moves bishop to E2. Now, what's happening here? Well, first of all, it's attacking the queen. Now, where can the queen go? Well, this bishop patrols all the dark squares. The knight is protected. Obviously, this bishop patrols all the white squares. The knight is hitting that one. The pawn's hitting that one. The rook's hitting that one. So the queen has to move to G6. And now what's the move to trap the queen? Again, if you want to try and find it, feel free to press pause. Otherwise, on we go in 3, 2, and 1. And the net is thrown over the queen by knight to H4. So there's the attack here. This bishop still guards all of the black squares. The pawn is guarding this square. The pawn itself is guarded by the knight. The bishop is guarding those two squares. Both pawns guard G3, and finally G2 is guarded by the knight backwards. Never has a queen looked so completely trapped, I would say. And of course, black resigns. Best thing black can do, by the way, not that it's particularly exciting, is in this position, just accept that they've lost their queen and just probably play queen takes bishop or queen takes knight, but who wants to do that? Okay. Next game, we have Cochrane against Kennedy, Troon Open in 1992. And this one looks a little similar to the previous pattern. So let's have a play through this. And we've got E4 and E5. We've got bishop C4, so we've got the bishops opening. And D6, fine. Okay, nothing wrong with this. Knight F3, so we've kind of converted it to a Philidor defense now. And F5, very aggressive counter gambit from black. Perfectly understandable, but not the best. Okay, computer quite likes white already. D4, knight to C6, knight to G5. Remember this square that we've talked about before that's just terribly, terribly weak if you're not careful. Knight to H6 to defend that square. And now knight to 8 takes H7 from white. And that's a good move because if you play I'll just put the lines up so you can see. If you play rook takes H7, you run into the queen check. And this is really, really unpleasant. For example, if you block with the pawn, queen takes, just not nice at all. Rook here, you're going to lose to bishop takes knight, and white's got all their material back and is winning. So yeah, knight takes H7 is quite a strong move. Black doesn't fall for that anyway at this point and plays queen to H4. And the white knight simply comes back again. But what that does do is cut off the queen's escape. So maybe that's part of the puzzle here. Knight takes D4, C3, kick the knight away. Knight goes back to C6. Now G3 attacking the queen, and we've seen the bar has just shot up. And where's the queen going to go? Can't go there because of the white queen. Can't go there because of the knight. Can go here though. Can go here. Obviously can't go here because the pawn takes, but can go here. So that's what black does in the game. And now if you want to work out white's next move to complete the net, feel free to press pause. Otherwise, I'll pop it on the board in 3, 2, and 1. And the move's bishop to E2. So very similar kind of net to the previous game, I would say, with the bishop and the queen kind of doing the damage. So there's the attack. Where can the queen go? Well, this is no good because of the knight. This no good because of the pawn. Likewise here, the knight is defended by the bishop. And of course, this bishop has everything on this diagonal. This pawn defended by here, and this square no good because of the knight. One more completely trapped queen. Ouchie. All right, let's do our fourth one. So we've got no name, NN, so we don't know who this is, against Van Meel, 1973 in Eindhoven. So let's get a nice new board and see what happens here. Now, Dr. Dave writes with this game, White's queen here did not move out too early. In fact, it didn't move out at all. Okay, well, let's see what happens. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, normal enough so far. Knight to C3, knight to F6, all right. Oops, that's a pawn. 4 knights game, fine. Bishop to B5, knight to D4, okay. Knight takes E5, queen to E7. F4 to defend the knight. At the moment, White probably thinks they're doing all right. It's a pretty level game, nothing much to say. Knight takes bishop, knight takes knight. D6 to kick away the knight on E5, which retreats to D3. And if you want to spy there goes the barrier. Now, quite clearly in this position, I assume White should play knight F3. Let's just have a look. So minus not much. Is knight F3 just staying in the same place? Yeah. Yeah, knight F3 is okay. Knight D3 is a horrid blunder. If you want to press pause and work out why, what on earth does Black do here that just wins? Well, press pause. Otherwise, we'll carry on in 3, 2, and 1. And this time the net is pretty simple. Bishop to G4 attacks the queen. The bishop is protected, so if the queen captures it, then the knight will take the queen. And look, the queen is actually trapped by her own soldiers. Only squares she can move to are these white squares that the bishop attacks anyway. So White must lose 9 points of material for 3. Ouch. Okay, game 5. Van Loo against Demoulin. So we've got an open tournament from Belgium, 2002. Let's have a look. This one is 10 moves. So E4, E5, knight to F3, knight to C6. Bishop to G4, is it the Italian game? Knight to F6, 2 knights defense, and D3. So White goes for quite a quiet version of it, rather than the fried liver that we've seen, all that sort of thing. Bishop E7, A3, D5 from Black. Pawn takes, knight takes, both sides castle, and rook to E1. Bishop to G4 from Black, pinning the knight. Knight B to D2, some more defense on the knight there. And this is all very, very level. Nothing wrong with this at the minute. King to H8 from Black. And White now plays B4. Oh dear. Okay. So for those who don't know, I don't really read these in advance. I have a very quick flick through just to count the number of games and positions. And then I sort of put the moves on the board live. So occasionally, if I get a bit confused and I sort of check with the computer if I've missed something, that's why. It's because I'm just doing it live. And I've just said, oh dear, because I've seen why this is a horrible blunder from White. Press pause if you'd like to work out why and see if you can say, oh dear, as well. Otherwise, I will carry on and show you in 3, 2, and 1. And knight to C3 basically checkmates the White queen. There's the attack from the knight. Obviously, the queen can't take her own pieces. And the only available square is E2, and the knight attacks that one as well. So, yeah, that's pretty dramatic. Ouch. Okay, we've got 4 games to go, and this has been going quite quickly. So I think we'll finish this in one go. Now, the next one is entitled The Noah's Ark Trap. So this is a very common one, especially in beginner chess, where you can trap an enemy bishop. So no players for this one. Dr. Dave simply gives us the pieces that move, just gives us the moves, I should say. So E4, E5, knight to F3, knight to C6, bishop to B5, A6, bishop to A4, D6. So I think that's the Steinitz variation. Yeah, there it is, D4 and B5. Okay, fine. Bishop to B3, he takes D4, knight takes D4, knight takes D4, queen takes D4. The bar is dropping. Slight advantage to Black, says the computer. c5 attacking the queen, queen to d5. So attacking the rook. Black will have to save their rook, or will they? Yes, they really should. Yeah, and they do. Bishop to e6. So that defends the rook by getting the bishop out of the way. Looks quite clever. A discovered defense. Queen to c6, check. Bishop to d7, which gains time against the queen. The queen now has to retreat to d5. And now can you spot the correct move for black that wins a piece for 2 pawns, which is a very nice little advantage too. And press pause if you want to have a quick look. Otherwise, I will carry on in 3, 2, and 1. And it's this move here. And this is attacking the bishop. The pawn is defended by his mate, who in turn is defended by his mate. So you've got a chain of pawns. And the only square the bishop can go to is here, which means there's no escape, look. So the best that white can do here is probably just to take 2 pawns for the bishop and hope for the best. But you'd much rather have the piece than the 2 pawns, and most positions, unless the 2 pawns were right up here, you know, maybe that'd be different. But in this situation, definitely an advantage to black. So that's the Noah's Ark trap, where you catch a bishop that can't retreat because it's blocked by his own pawns and is hemmed in by a pawn chain like that. Okay, let's get a new board. And this time, Dr. Dave has entitled the game Net of a Rook. So we're going to catch a rook here. So let's see, we've got Braxa against Cordero Valdez, 1991. Okay, e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, d3, very passive move from white. You can't say it's a bad move. It's not blundering anything. It's terribly passive, very defensive. Bishop to c5. Bishop to e3, immediately swapping, offering to swap bishops. Bishop to b6, black prefers not to. And now white plays d4. So I'm tempted to say a bit of a waste of time because you've already played d3. But okay, again, it's not a blunder. I mean, it's, you know, pretty level. Takes and takes and takes and takes and d6. Bishop to c4, yeah, I don't quite know why white's played bishop to c4 here. This is a bit of a waste of time because it gives black a chance to actually escape. Bishop c4 there is a really bad move. Bishop to e6, and that's also a bad move. And it's a bad move because you're going to lose the rook. So black does, Dr. Dave puts, black does not wait for bishop takes g7, trapping the rook in the corner. So bishop here, bishop here, bishop here. This isn't going to do it. What you'd have to do actually in this situation, I think, is play bishop takes bishop first. Yeah, that's better. And then pawn takes. And now you do this. And there's no way to, oh, not that. It's not our bishop to move. There's no way to save the rook. But I would have thought if we go back a couple of moves, perhaps I'm missing something here, but I would have thought in this position, you would just play bishop takes straight away. Yeah, and that's what the computer recommends. So definitely some mistakes from the 2 players there, but this is a very typical net of a rook, especially again at junior level, at beginner level, catching the rook in the corner like this, where it just can't move away. And of course, the bishop gets it on the diagonal. So, okay, that's that one. And we've got 2 more. Hop, skip, and a net. Dr. Dave calls this one. Okay, so De La Paz against Vol from a tournament in Havana, Cuba in 2001. Let's see how this goes. E4, E5, knight F3, D6, bishop to C4. This looks very familiar. Looks like the previous game, or a previous game that we've seen. Bishop E7, C3, knight F6, D3, castles, bishop to B3, okay, knight B to D7, castles, and rook E8. Oh, wow. Okay, so rook E8 is a definite error. And see if you can find for yourself the best move for white here. Hit pause if you'd like to try and find it. And I'll carry on otherwise in 3, 2, and 1. And the point here is bishop takes pawn check. And now there's basically two possibilities. If black takes the bishop, we get knight to g5 check. The king must move. It has to go backwards. It can't go here because that's also a square the knight guards. So let's say the king goes back. And now knight e6 has completely trapped the queen. Look, she's completely smothered. So white will have won a queen. And of course, if black doesn't take the bishop, say black just plays king h8, well, then white's just won a rook and a pawn for a bishop, so 6 for 3. So yeah, in both cases, white is obviously winning, winning good amounts of material. Okay, one more on nets. So one more new analysis board, and we've got Goldenov versus Nekrasova. Minsk, that's in the Ukraine, I think, and 1953. All right, let's have a look here. So we've got a different opening. We've got a French defense. Okay, d4, d5, knight to c3, bishop to b4, the Vinowa variation. Lovely. e5, c5. This is all quite known. D takes c5. I'm not so sure about that one. I'm not a big player of the French defense, so okay. Pawn takes and knight to c6. Queen to g4. Now that is a common move in the French defense, the Vinowa variation, especially because that bishop's not here protecting g7. So I know that much. Knight to e5 and queen takes g7. Looks rather like it's winning the rook, does it not? But black has a defensive move. Queen to f6, defending backwards, and the queen's protected by the knight. And yet, the Uval bar is still saying +2 and a bit, plus, there we go. So can you find white's pretty remarkable next move that actually ensures they will win the rook, will win material? Hit pause if you want to have a go. This one is pretty tricky, in fairness. Otherwise, I'll carry on in 3, 2, and 1. And the move here is bishop to h6. What on earth? How? Why? What? Where? Well, queen takes queen, bishop takes, and you've trapped the rook in the same way as we saw in a previous puzzle. But what else are you going to do here? I wonder what the computer says is black's best try. I'm guessing just to move one of the knights. I was going to guess at knight g6, which is the second move. Computer says you just might as well go knight d7. And then at this point, bishop to b5, pinning the knight. Nothing's changing here. You still can't play queen takes queen. But you can play queen takes bishop because the knight defends your queen. But then, of course, white just wins the rook. And white has won the exchange, has won a rook for a rook for a knight. So that's pretty good news and a bit of an advantage to white. Certainly not a position that you'd resign at junior, beginner and intermediate level. There's play, but if you're a grandmaster and you're a piece or a down like this, you probably would give in. Okay, so that was nets. The next video, we actually start on some slightly more complicated ideas. We'll be moving on to jumps and discoveries, discovered attacks and jumps. So that's for next time. But for now, I shall bid you a fond farewell. Thanks for watching. See you later.